Today's topic is...
An alternative to D&D and...
Daggerheart?
No, can I finish my sentence?
Sure.
An alternative to D&D that brings deep roleplay and diverse options for tactical gameplay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to Wade Pan. I'm Cal.
I'm Sunny.
And we have with us...
Wade.
Hey man, how you doing?
Yeah, good.
So, first off, we've known each other for a long time. Not deeply, but we met through your first Kickstarter, and I wanted to get my own game off the ground. There's been a lot of things that have happened in between now and then. So the first question I want to ask is, has your art budget gone through to 6 figures yet?
Well, my art budget is definitely large.
Yeah.
Large.
Mine instantly went to 5. I'm like, how? Why?
Yep, it does that. But I don't regret that. I love I love sending money to artists, and yeah.
I think we can admit it. We love the art. We like the money too, but if we're gonna choose one,
Okay, so I know Cal knows a little bit about your game. He says there's this whole thing at the start of your book, but I want to ask something simpler. Why Fragged? I get the kingdom part because, Dungeons and Dragons gives you a clue about what you're in for, and I'd be upset if there were no Dungeons or Dragons in Dungeons and Dragons.
Sonny, if we could get to the question.
Right. So why is it called Fragged Empire?
Well, I think I first started off because I liked the word, and I thought it had a little depth there. So part of it was fragmentation, that kind of broken up sort of rebuilding sort of post-apocalyptic, which my Fragged Empire was. But also it had connections to fragging, which was something that would happen during the Great Wars when a soldier would kill one of their commanders they didn't like. They would throw a frag grenade in the heat of battle at their feet and kill them.
Oh, that's interesting.
That it was also in pop culture, like when you're playing a first-person shooter and you frag someone. Yeah. These were all very interesting. I thought it makes the word very interesting. It's kind of spicy, but with a little depth there. But now it's become a bit like a branding thing.
It definitely has a nice mouthfeel to it. Like when you say Fragged Empire or Fragged Kingdom, which Empire is your original one, as I understand
Yeah, that's my sci-fi.
Yes. So it has a nice mouthfeel to it. So it also makes sense for branding, as you say. So I've heard Fragged Kingdom is in the same universe as Fragged Empire. Is this similar to Warhammer and Warhammer 40k, or
that's part of the inspiration there. I remember back when I was young, my friends and I, spending far too much money on Games Workshop, and originally
not relevant to this channel at all.
That Warhammer Fantasy was going to be in the 40k universe, and they even had the idea of putting a bolter in the original. I heard one of the creators talk about that. They thought about doing that. Since then, I'm not sure whether it's canon. It is in the same universe, but I always liked that idea. I thought it adds extra depth, and when I wanted to make my fantasy world, I didn't want any elves or dwarves or even humans in it, but creating an original setting just takes a lot of work, a lot of words, and I thought, I got one book to sell this. How can I do this? I thought, okay, if I attach it to my Fragged Empire, my previous IP, I can build on what I've already made, and I can give some sort of interesting takes on my species, like a new perspectives, but also kind of reward people who know Fragged Empire, can get extra out of Fragged Kingdom, but you don't need to know it. Yeah,
that does help with that. So what stories are being told with it, and what kind of stories are you hoping people will tell with it?
Well, it's set up to be that sort of the quintessential game is that ragtag band of mercenaries traveling around the countryside, getting into trouble, doing missions, exploring ancient ruins and stuff like that. It's a very classical sort of that fantasy RPG sort of activities, but the system's very robust in that it also allows for, if you want to do something much more political or espionage, intrigue type stuff is also in there. I'm quite proud of that the game can be quite flexible in that way.
Yeah, so based off that, I want to actually throw to our third question rather than our second one, because I think it's very relevant to what you just said. Currently, D&D is going through what we'll politely call an anti-Renaissance period. And people are looking for alternatives.
And Daggerheart has been thrown around a lot, but not everyone likes the theater kid aesthetic. You know?
So you've been going strong for years, and this is the revamp of your system. So give us an overview of the system, and what did you want to revamp and why?
Yeah. So I could talk on the whole Wizards of the Coast thing forever, but I won't do that.
No.
we all love knocking down Goliath when we think of ourselves as David, but
Yeah.
I think the thing for me is, so this is my second edition of Fragged Kingdom, and I've actually done something quite significant with this second edition in that I've actually pushed the timeline forward 200 years.
Oh.
And that is kind of my way of redoing the lore. But I didn't want to discard my previous lore because I don't like retroing too much. I don't like creating something and then making it disappear. I prefer to just add on to it. And so I think people who played a lot of RPGs, they played a lot of D&D, and they were looking for something new, Fragged is a great offer for that sort of person. And especially because I think Fragged does something that I think is a bit special in that it really tries to be a game for all different types of players. I am less interested to making sure that your party has the tank, the healer, and the DPS type thing. I want the narrative gamer, the rules light gamer, the theater kid, gamer, the tactical power gamer. I want all the different sorts of gamers to be at the same table. And as they're playing Frag, they'll slowly modify the game through their options to fit their playstyle without negatively impacting other people at the table. And I think that's something that makes Fragged really special in that I think
it's very modular. Well. Is that what I'm hearing?
It's sort of, so as you're leveling up, I'll give an example. So as you're leveling up your character, you have all the different traits that you can pick, okay? They're the building blocks of your character. But these traits come in different styles. So you can have a very simple trait, maybe a couple of passive bonuses. Maybe it even removes a rule from the game for you. So great for someone if you don't like rules. But then there's other options. So like maybe you can, like a more narrative options, like you can add something to a scene or you get extra NPC friends. Good for that sort of narrative story-driven gamer. Or maybe you're really into maths. You really love games a lot and mechanics. There's also options for you for like comboing different stuff together. And so at the same table, you might have someone who's, I have a sword and shield and I hit things. And at the same table, you might have someone with like, I have 6 different minions that I resummon, and as they die, I get power and I can do this. But that complexity is just for the person who likes the complexity. They are making the game what they want, whether they want it simple or complicated or more narrative. And I think that's probably the thing that Frag does best and most special, even though we are known for a game that's a little bit crunchier because there's a bit of mechanics there. Like I'm not a rules light game. This is there's a bit of meat there to bite into.
So that brings me to this question. What's the relationship between that tactical gameplay and the emotional narrative, and how do you balance those two themes?
So I think that's sort of the thing that I think RPGs do the most special. Okay, in that you've got role-playing game in the terms of you've got the acting and the theater and the narrative, the improv storytelling combined with mechanics, okay, and sort of getting those things to work together. And I think mostly for me as a game designer, I need to make sure that I am feeding both of those things. The Holy Grail, which I mean, I've been doing this full time for about a decade now. And every single new book of mine, I feel like my goal is in a way to make both of those as amazing as possible, to be as good as possible. So a lot of it's about how I craft things and just putting work into it, and giving people the tools that they need to run the sort of game that they want.
The way that I put it before is it role heavy? Is it playing heavy, right? Or is it the game, the system heavy? Where would you sort of put Fragged Kingdom in those three categories?
Oh man. So I always struggle a little bit with that. I'd say this is a very proudly medium crunch game. Okay. Very proudly. It knows what it is. This is not some rules light improv, make it up as you go, flip a coin to sort of decide outcomes. You know, there's a little bit of maths in there and you roll the dice dice and do you get sixes and what bonuses have you got? You know, if I've got like a dagger versus a spear, the person with the dagger is going to want to get right up in a person's face while the spears want to keep you at distance. So there's a little bit of that sort of cerebral part of the game in there, which I think makes Fragged stand out. And I think that's mostly just a bit of a reflection of my personality and how I like games and makes things special. The reason I probably think you don't get as many games the reason I think you get a lot of role-playing games, I would say disregard or neglect the cerebral part of the game, is they're actually harder to design. They require more work, okay? And I'm something that I love RPGs when they are firing on all cylinders in all ways as much as possible. And so that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
So people may not know this, but Cal and I met in a role-playing game, actually.
Yeah.
I really liked his character, and I don't think I would have liked him as much if he was just a fighter guy type, you know? We were playing this supers game where we were part of a superhero high school. He was a quirkless guy. In this game system, we call it quirkless, but it just means you don't have powers, right? But he was really smart, and he played the role of a tactician, but instead of being a typical smart guy, he was like this Brooklyn gangster. Yeah, what?
Can we get to the question?
Oh, yeah, okay. What kind of stories can you tell in Fragged Kingdom that just don't work in D&D?
Ooh, man. That just don't work in D&D. I think, like... Okay, look, I'll be upfront. I have not played D&D in a long time. Okay,
that's fair. Neither have I. Not in a while. No.
Really?
No. It's all been our own systems. Remember?
I mean, in the past, you played your own D&D games.
Yeah, we did play, but that's been a while now.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
a long time now.
Yes. So what do you think that they are? Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say in Frag games, like, you could be an entire party of soldiers or court nobles, or like you don't have to have that sort of balanced party in terms of roles.
Yeah.
Just pick what you think is cool and run with it. So like if you wanted to be like, we are now just a party of soldiers, we all just have bows and swords, that would totally work. Or we're going to be a magic user party where everyone's a spellcaster. That would work. I probably think mechanically that's probably something that Frag games fulfill a lot better than D&D. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And you can also have a party where in the same party, a rich person and a poor person. The game also allows for that. Like, you could be...
What about a middle-class person?
You could be middle class too. That's right. We got all the socioeconomic statuses.
Can you lower middle class?
Isn't that an interesting thing? Because you play D&D and you expect that, we're all getting treasure and loot and they're all kind of about the same amount of wealth.
Yeah.
Not the case in Fragged. You could have a really rich... But like in my last game, we had a person who was a Tolatal. He's kind of like this small goblin-y type character. Okay. And he had 2 bodyguards. And he had a giant chest of gold. And he would stand on the chest and his bodyguards would carry him around.
Oh my god.
Because he wanted to be that really rich guy. He didn't actually fight. His bodyguards did all the fighting for him. He was this hoity-toity goblin-esque noble. And then the second party, we had like a bunch of like really average people, and then like this real down-on-your-luck sailor who'd like washed up as a shipwreck on the shore, and he was using scrap wood as like a shield and an anchor as a weapon. You know?
Wow.
And
how
it
would
works.
you even lift the anchor? He must be pretty strong, eh?
All right. So, last question, and I think it's really important. So, can you promise the people who buy this game, will they get a Sunny-style waifu if they purchase this game?
The best bonus.
Wife guaranteed, you know.
Wife guaranteed.
Each purchase comes with one
waifu. Oh, that would sell like hotcakes. I think you would immediately beat every other game out there.
Well, I think
game comes with a complimentary waifu.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we should give out one thing that we give at the end of every episode.
Oh yeah. What's that?
Keep those brushes wet. Bye-bye.
So why should you support Fragged Kingdom?
Now, I could say I've known this guy for years, almost a decade now. I could say that he's one of the nicest people I've ever met, but that doesn't tell you whether a game is good or not.
So why support this game?
He is an industry veteran. He is a lone figure who has been pushing uphill for 10 years in this industry. He has been refining his game. This is the second version of his game, not a brand new version coming out with all of the kinks yet to be worked out.
This is something that has been refined. He's not someone who is a fan of retconning his lore. Like he said, he's just building on top of whatever good foundation he's already built so that the community that he has built isn't left behind, so that new people can come into this community and be a part of it. So if you're all up for that, why not give this game a chance?
Because we asked that last question for a reason. I took a chance and I met Sunny. Why don't you take a chance and see what you can find?